Hey, what's up, everybody? Hope you guys are doing good today, and time for our continuation in our secret bait modification series that I've been doing, sharing with you guys some tips that I've learned over the last 40 years of bass fishing. And today is a really big one based upon a lot of questions I get with jerkbaits, because I have so many people send me questions, ask questions about, how do I get the Vision 110 to suspend, or, do different stuff with the weighting on it, because the bait is so precise that it's a lot different than a lot of different jerkbaits. So today I'm going to share with you my secret tip on how to correctly weight a Vision 110 without using any weights on it or without using any suspend strips, that type of stuff. But first, just a couple of different things here before we get started. First of all, guys, thanks a lot. Man, I just hit 15,000 YouTube subscribers yesterday. Thank you very much for subscribing to the channel. Everybody that subscribed, just a big thank you. Man, it just really means a lot to me that the channel has been this successful, considering how, basic it is. I mean, I don't have any music or graphics, as you guys know. I just get here in the tackle room or in the truck and talk. Probably start talking some more in the boat, once it warms up a little bit. But to have this type of engagement from everybody, man, I just really appreciate it, and I don't take it for granted. So thank you very much. I hope we can keep growing, man. And on top of that, this Thursday, Johnny and I have our next Fish the Moment virtual seminar. We're going to be doing a 3-hour seminar from 6 to 9 p.m. next Thursday on pre-spawn patterns, pre-spawn fishing. We're going to get you a bunch of different info that'll help you out a lot coming up this pre-spawn, which is just right around the corner, actually starting right now in some parts of the country. So you can sign up for that at fishthemoment.com. Okay, let's get into this jerkbait weighting deal. First of all, before I get into this, I need to explain a little bit about Vision 110s as far as weighting them and some of the variables surrounding it. The Vision 110 is very precise. The tolerances on it are super tight as far as its ability to sink, float, or suspend. I mean, with the internal balancer system on it and the way the bait's set up, it's designed to do specific things. So there's not a lot of leeway there to play with. And the biggest thing that a lot of people don't know, because I get notes a lot of times saying, man, my 110's sinking, or my 110's not suspending right. The reason this is because the paint scheme on a Vision 110 will determine the buoyancy of it a lot. For example, if you're using some type of a flat finish, matte finish, or some type of a metallic finish, it weighs a little bit more than like the more translucent finishes like this that don't have much paint on it. For example, any translucent finish you have like this, there's simply not as much paint on it as you have somebody if you've got like a matted type finish, or the metallic finish that has more paint on it. So that's going to influence its sink rate or suspension rate based upon what you have with that. So most of the time when you get a Vision 110 out of the box, you just got the stock hooks on it here, and the bait, this varies a lot of times. If you get a bait like this, some of them float up slow, some of them suspend perfect, and some of them leave and sink. So it all changes with that. But what I want to talk about today is the Vision 110s that most of them do. Most of them will just barely slowly float up with the stock Megabass hooks on it. The times that I want that is the only time that I really want a jerkbait to float up slow like that is in a little bit warmer water, or if I'm fishing for smallmouth. If you're fishing for smallmouth in clear water situations, particularly up north, a lot of times those smallmouth like you to stop the bait, and they like it to rise, and they'll hit it on the rise. Or say, for example, if I'm fishing a jerkbait around docks in the summertime when they're a little bit more aggressive, I like it to rise up a little bit. In that situation, I'll leave the stock Megabass outbarb hooks on it. This is a really good hook, super sharp. You get one of these barbs in the fish, they're not coming out. The only downside about this hook is it's such a fine wire light hook that it will straighten out a little bit easier, which is not really an issue when you're fighting the fish. But if you pull it off a rock or a limb and you straighten the barb out, you need to replace it. So here's my tip, is what I'm talking about. And I've got 2 different systems that will allow you to do this. If you have a Vision 110 that is slowly floating up and you want it to get it to suspend, here's what I do with it. I replace the middle treble here with a Gamakatsu G Finesse number 6 treble hook. Now, even though this treble hook, you can see that it's actually even smaller than the stock outbarb Megabass hook. This hook weighs just enough more than the stock hook to get that bait to suspend. So if you got a slowly rising bait, all you have to do is put a number 6 Gamakatsu G Finesse treble on the middle part of it like that, and it'll cause that bait to suspend perfect without putting any type of suspend strips on it. Now, if you're like me and you like sometimes in the wintertime, I like the bait to slowly sink sometimes, because the reason I like that is, say for example, if I'm fishing main lake points in the pre-spawn or in the wintertime, and I want to get that bait down deeper than what most people fish, is I want my jerkbait to sink a little bit. So I'll throw it out there and I'll count it down maybe 30 seconds and I'll let the bait actually sink maybe 10 feet or so or more, 10 or 12, 15 feet before I begin my retrieve. If I want to do that, all I do is I replace the front hook with a Gamakatsu G Finesse number 4 hook on there. This hook is big enough and heavier enough, it will slowly sink that bait down just about like that, more than like the middle one. And the reason I use the big hook on the front is, here's another thing to remember about jerkbaits, is if you want to replace a hook to a bigger hook, always put your bigger hook on the front, because the reason you do that is if you put the bigger hook on the back, where a lot of people think, well, I need the big hook on the back because the fish comes up and nips the bait, got more hook. That's not what you want. You want that big hook up front, because in the front here, when the fish hits it, you have more mass. There's more plastic around here to interfere with the bite gap on the treble. So you need a bigger bite gap on the front to offset more of the plastic that's here. On the back, I don't really care, because all I want is one barb. If I get one barb of this treble hook in the fish's mouth, and that barb has penetrated, a hard part of its mouth, it's not coming off. So I put that number 4 in the front, and this will allow that bait to just barely slowly sink down like that without weighting the bait. So I've experimented with hooks a lot over the past 10 years, and I very seldom anymore use suspend strips. I do once in a while, because sometimes you'll get a bait that, is just abnormally buoyant and you need a little bit more weight because if I don't want to go to a bigger hook, say for example, I'm fishing a lake that has a heavy spotted bass population. I like to use smaller hooks on the jerkbait when I'm fishing around places that have bigger spotted bass population, because you get better hookups with small hooks. So what I would do in there is I would go to the small, like number 6 G Finesse Gamakatsus or the stock Megabass, and then at that time I may attach some type of suspend strip on the bait to get the bait to fall down with that. But another thing about it is nobody can say when you're weighting a Vision 110 that like this is going to be the perfect solution to it, because there's more variables involved. You've got the water temperature. The water temperature is going to determine the buoyancy of a bait a long time, depending upon if it's, a bait is going to react different as far as its buoyancy in 80-degree water versus 40-degree water. So you have that variable. You also have the variable of your line test, how heavy a line that you're using. And like I said, the most important variable of all is the paint scheme on the Vision 110, because the Vision 110, I've been to the manufacturing plant in Hamamatsu City, Japan. These baits are hand painted in a line, and every single bait, it's like every single color that you see on this bait, they go down a line and every person paints a different color on the bait as it goes down the line. So these are hand painted baits, and anytime you have a custom hand painted bait, you don't have the consistency on it. So you're going to have a different level of paint on each one of these baits based upon the paint scheme on it, which is going to determine how buoyant the bait is. So you just sort of have to play around with it. But overall, the point of this video right here is that I can tell you right now, most of the time you can get rid, of your suspend strips or weighting on 110. Just make those modifications and do those weight adjustments with hooks. Again, I've experimented with every treble hook on the market for a jerkbait, And the best hook for me is the Gamakatsu G Finesse treble. It's a nano-coated hook. It's a small diameter. It's very, very light for its size. And the biggest mistake that I see people making with hooks on jerkbaits is they go to way too big of hooks. You don't want that. You do not want a hook that has a big barb. You do not want a hook that has a large diameter on it, because when you're talking jerkbait fishing, you're talking about penetration that has to be made without putting a lot of pressure on the bait, because a lot of times we're using 6 to 10 pound test line on these. So these aren't a bait that you have a lot of power where you can really put those big barb, big, treble hook baits in a fish, unless you're power fishing, like jerking the bait real hard for smallmouth up north. But still, then you don't even want big hooks on there, because big hooks will kill the action of the bait. The lighter, the smaller hooks that you have, the more lifelike a bait is, and the more efficient it is for hooking and landing the fish. So anyway, give those tips a try. Don't have to weigh them, just experiment with different hooks on there. I'd suggest those G Finesse Gamakatsu, set them up the way that I told you there, and you'll be able to waste your Vision 110s for about any situation that you encounter. So anyway, that's today's tip, guys. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, thanks for helping me get to 15,000 subscribers. If you haven't subscribed, please do so, man. We'll just keep moving up there, and it's definitely much appreciated on this end. So have a good day. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. See you.